lifestyle that accounts for about 2/3 of their life expectancy. With the key to healthy aging is maintaining healthy lifelong weight through diet and exercise. But what I think is significant about this study is that it really does prove that our lifestyle can trump our genetic inheritance. We don't have to be victims of the genes that we inherited from our parents and their parents and their parents. Simply by engaging in a healthy lifestyle, you can actually turn good genes on and bad genes off. And that's not only just good for you, but they've actually shown that you can pass those genetic traits up to 2 to 3 generations beyond you. So think about this, particularly people who are in childbearing age. Simply engaging in a healthy lifestyle today, you can potentially impact your family's past generations of chronic disease conditions, perhaps eradicating them for your future family's generations to come. I mean, just because great-grandma had breast cancer and grandma had breast cancer and mom had breast cancer doesn't mean that you are destined to get that cancer, right? Because we know through the study of something called epigenetics that exercising and eating properly will turn good genes on and bad genes off. You're hardwired to your DNA, right? You can't change your DNA, but what you can change and what you have control over are the epigenetic switches that sit on the outside of your DNA that dictate whether that gene is going to get turned on or not. Okay, and that's what you're going to find out tonight. It's so powerful what lifestyle can do to our genome, to our genetic material. We're not as hardwired to our DNA as we once thought we were. So the 2 big pillars of health, we've heard about them for years, is exercising and eating properly. And when I talk about exercising, I'm talking about movement. Just getting up, moving, walking. And these are stats that were compiled just within the last year or two, where they're finding out that sedentary behavior is not good. And what they have found is that if you sit 4 or more hours consecutively on a fairly regular basis, that is equivalent to the health detrimental effects of smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. Wow. Believe it or not, yeah. Sedentary behavior is now the new smoking of our generation, and it increases cardiovascular disease risk by 125%. And this is the scary part. It increases risk from death from any cause up to 50%. Okay, so movement is absolutely key. And there was a big Canadian study that was published a couple of years ago, or just last year, or it was 2 years ago. And it was a big study where they looked at, I believe it was between 40 and 50 randomized controlled trial studies on lifestyle and its effect on breast cancer. And the researchers parsed through thousands of pages of data, and they kind of came up with this David Letterman's top 10 list of game changers when it came to lifestyle and its impact on breast cancer. And one of the biggest findings, you can see, one of the biggest findings they found was that of all the lifestyle factors, physical activity has the most robust effect on breast cancer outcomes. Whether preventing breast cancer in the first place or preventing it from occurring if you've already had it, right? So exercise is key. That phrase is just coined back there. Exercise is medicine. Is very, very true. There you go. You can't compete with what you eat, though, right? You cannot out-exercise a bad diet, right? So exercising is key, but you can't out-exercise a bad diet. I mean, if you go, to the gym and work out for an hour, and then you go fuel your body at Taco Bell, well, you kind of just wasted a lot of time in the gym, right? Because what you put in here absolutely dictates, what you did as far as exercise. So eating properly is important to do so, and this is the deal. We've heard about it for years. Fruits and veggies. The more fruits and veggies that you put into your body, not only the healthier you're going to be, but the better you're actually going to feel. And really, it's that combination of diets that are loaded up with plants, combined with an exercise program, that has a profound influence on a lot of the chronic disease conditions that you hear about, that you read about, that maybe afflict you or family members. And I've highlighted some of these in red because they tend to be more common than others. I mean, how many people do you know that have struggle with asthma or cancer, or heart disease, or diabetes, or MS, or the arthritises? Those diseases in red, but actually all of those diseases have one common denominator that links them all together. And that's something called oxidative stress. So I just want to spend just a little bit of time explaining what that is, because that's kind of cutting edge stuff in medicine today. So when we talk about oxidative stress, well, we start by talking about oxygen. And similar to when you cut an apple in half and you leave that apple exposed to oxygen or room air, what happens to the apple over a period of time? Well, it becomes brown, right? It becomes oxidized. It ages quicker. Well, a parallel process is actually going on inside of our bodies as we take in oxygen. While we need oxygen, it can act as a double-edged sword in producing these things called free radicals that can accelerate aging and that can accelerate disease processes. Another way of looking at oxidative stress is comparing it to a car engine. The car engine utilizes gasoline to combust and make a usable form of energy to make that car run. But out of that external combustion comes a toxic byproduct in the form of exhaust. Well, our body's engines are called mitochondria. And it's these ovoid organelles that exist inside the cells of our bodies. These are the powerhouses of our body. Okay, this is where energy from the food that you eat, combined with the oxygen that you breathe in, goes into making a usable form of energy to make your body run. That's something called ATP. But this is not an airtight process. And not all those molecules are utilized in the production of energy in the form of ATP. And so what happens is that you end up with this spillover effect of these highly charged reactive oxygen species, otherwise known as free radicals. And these free radicals, if they're not effectively neutralized, can very quickly escape from the mitochondria, and then they begin to do damage to our nearby healthy cells, silently, without you actually feeling it. Free radicals can attack the membranes that surround our cells and tissues. They can attack the proteins inside of our bodies, which is key if you're an athlete. Free radicals can attack our genetic material, our DNA, and real importantly, whether you're just getting out and going to work, all the way up to the elite athletes. Cumulatively, over a period of time, if these free radicals are not effectively neutralized, they'll begin to attack the very mitochondria that formed them. The reason that's important is because mitochondria do not have the ability to effectively repair themselves from that kind of damage, similar to other cells inside of our bodies. And so cumulative damage to mitochondria will begin to shut down your mitochondria. And the reason that's important is because, guess what? Those are your energy producers. Right? And loss of energy is going to affect you, whether you're just getting up going to work, all the way up to be a elite athlete. And this is a cumulative process. The research shows that that kind of damage can take years to actually manifest itself in disease processes. I mean, think about it, right? How many people do you know that are too tired to perform even the most basic tasks of daily life? Right? Perhaps you struggle, or you know people who struggle with getting through the day. You wake up at 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning with energy, and by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, game over. That doesn't have to be any of us by any stretch of the imagination. So neutralizing this byproduct of our daily metabolism is important to do so, and we can do so because we all come equipped with it. We are born with this complex internal enzymatic and non-enzymatic cascade that acts as a frontline defense system in attempting to reduce all of these free radicals that we produce on a daily basis. Yeah, you guys did it too. From my vantage point, what I love to see is me looking at you looking at those slides right there. The biggest bunch of blank stares, even in bright lights, I've ever seen. But I'm not going to go through this with you because I don't remember any of this stuff. I'd have to go back to med school. But the reason I put this up is that even though God gave us a system that attempts to neutralize all of these free radicals, the research is very clear that the system that we're born with cannot function by itself. The system that we're born with will eventually fail unless it's properly fortified. And we fortify the system that we're born with, well, it's through our diets, but specifically diets that are rich in fruits and veggies, and specifically the rainbow of colors, right? The reds, the greens, the purples, the yellows. Because inside of those colorful pigments exist these very powerful plant chemicals called phytonutrients. And one of them, the phytonutrients, is basically plant-based nutrition, right? It's thousands and thousands of powerful antioxidant substances found in all the fruits and veggies, and this is the key. All those plant nutrients are working together synergistically in very small amounts to be extremely powerful in the human body. Okay, so load up your plates with plants. The question is how many, and just within the last 5, 6 years or so, based on the most current epidemiological and observation studies, it's now recommended that we should be consuming 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies every day. And a serving is roughly the size of your fist. And I scroll up on that slide every day. That's just not a couple of days a week that you get that amount in your diet. It's every single day for the rest of your life. And some of you know I have a whole bunch of different talks I do just for athletes on this subject. And I pulled some slides over because it's really pretty remarkable when I was doing the research on it. And this is based on a formula. I can't remember the whole formula, but it has to do with kilocalorie output and BMI and a few other things. That individuals who approximate 60 to 90 minutes or more of physical activity cumulatively within a 24-hour window, this is how many fruits and veggies you should be eating every single day. 16 to 18 servings. That's a formula, you guys. It's just not conjecture. Okay? So forget 16. You guys got really quiet with that. But think about it. Skip 16 to 18. Go back to the other slide where I said 7 to 13 servings. Do you and your family get 7 to 13 servings of fruits and veggies every day? Are they picked vine ripened, so the most nutrient dense? And are they in the rainbow of colors? Okay, you know, over the decade or so of me lecturing internationally, I've literally spoken to probably thousands of vegans, you know, thousands of vegetarians, thousands of people who juice. And that's all healthy living, right? But take, for instance, people who juice. You know, while juicing is healthy, people who juice, though, typically juice only the same 5, 6, 7, 8 things. Okay? It's the rainbow of colors. It is the wide variety that scientists are now finding is as important as the quantity. It's the rainbow of colors. So unless you get that quantity and that quality in your diet every single day for almost every single one of us, me included, at one point or another, you know what? There's going to exist some form of a gap in our nutrition. And the traditional way that we've been bridging or narrowing that nutritional gap has been through the consumption of all these synthetic, isolated, laboratory-made vitamins and our multivitamins that we see everywhere on counters today. But very, very clearly, just within the last 6, 7 years, multiple large-scale studies involving hundreds of thousands of participants looking at whether taking isolated vitamins like vitamin C or vitamin E or multivitamins, whether those would have an impact in reducing all these chronic disease conditions. Well, the data from those studies has now started to roll in over the last few years, and you know what? It's telling us quite a different story. In many instances, these synthetic isolates are having no effect in human physiology, and in some instances, they're actually doing more harm than good, believe it or not. And in fact, neither these two large institutions, neither the American Heart Association nor the American Institute for Cancer Research, recommend vitamin supplements to reduce cardiovascular disease or cancer. But what they do recommend, it's right from their websites, eat more fruits and veggies, because eating more fruits and veggies will decrease your potential risk for cardiovascular disease. Eating more fruits and veggies will potentially decrease your risk for cancer. Okay? Now, this is kind of the proverbial nail in the coffin on this entire subject when it comes to cardiovascular risk. This is the largest scaled study to date looking at this. They looked at 18, and this is just published, 18 individual published studies, over 2 million participants followed at a minimum of 12 years, and looking at this whole subject, and this is the conclusion these researchers came to. Taking multivitamin and mineral supplements does not prevent heart attacks, strokes, or cardiovascular death. And I can tell you the same thing is going to happen with cancer and vitamin supplements. It's just a matter of time. Okay? The real health benefits of fruits and veggies, people really kind of don't understand. You know, people eat fruits and veggies, they think, well, it's healthy for you, but it's got lots of vitamins and minerals. You know, that is a fraction of what is in a fruit or veggie that makes your body healthy. What is in the fruits and veggies that makes your body healthy are the plant chemicals, what you find in the skin and the rest of the fruit. You know, the flavonoids, the polyphenols, the carotenoids. Those are what confer health to human physiology. Over from athletes. And I think I started talking about this about 10 years ago, and there's some really early pilot studies that typically aren't well designed. Well, this is a very well designed study published just a few years ago where they're finding out that athletes that are taking these synthetic vitamins, like vitamin C, like Emergency, well, they're finding out that the synthetic form of these vitamins are mechanistically shutting down the adaptive health responses that you should be getting from exercise, ultimately leading to a decrease in training efficiency. So vitamin supplements are blunting the adaptive health responses you should be getting from exercise. And you'll hear my story here in a little bit as it totally relates to this. I didn't know this, but this study wasn't around many, many years ago. So the bottom line is nature knows best. You know, what we have in nature is far superior to any man-made vitamin supplement produced in laboratories today. And a great example of this is if you look at an apple. You know, an apple alone has well over some 10,000 phytonutrients, plant nutrients, some 850 of which have already been named and identified. So follow me with the logic on this, because this is important to understand. That now with over 12,500 phytonutrients, plant nutrients, that have already been named and identified in all the fruits and veggies around us, which of all those plant nutrients are selected by scientists, are removed from that plant source, are taken to a laboratory, are chemically synthesized, and end up in a standard isolated vitamin or multivitamin. Okay, so scientists versus Mother Nature is making the determination of which of all those tens of thousands of plant chemicals is the most bioactive inside the human body. But by doing so, they've extracted that single nutrient from its natural synergistic role that it plays in the tens of thousands of other plant nutrients. You know, why are we tinkering around with what Mother Nature's already provided for us? I mean, would you rather have the nutrients in the apple make the determination of what's healthy to your body, or that below it, man-selected isolates from that particular fruit or veg. So the bottom line is, based on all the research and studies we know today, it makes a whole heck of a lot more sense to bridge the nutritional gap with whole raw food sources that contain your vitamins and minerals. But like I've already said, way beyond vitamins and minerals, it's the tens of thousands of plant chemicals that you get from eating fruits and veggies that you do not get in a multivitamin. Okay, so bridge the gap with food versus bridging the gap with what I call no food, which are these synthetic isolates that, short of a deficiency disease, our bodies simply don't know what to do. So just as a gym or fitness facility provides equipment for us to get physically fit, there's a product on the market today that I and literally thousands of healthcare providers around the world proudly recommend and take. And the product that we do is Juice Plus. And the reason why we love Juice Plus, and me in particular, is because of the research and why it stands out above any other nutritional product on the market today. It's the most thoroughly researched brand name nutritional product available today in the world. Talk about that research, shall we? Lock the doors. This is the next 6 hours of research we're talking, folks. You got lured into this, and they're locking the doors now. Here we go. Yes. No, I won't do that to you. But we will talk about some of the research when I turn and start telling you guys some stories. But all joking aside, this is really what got me, as a physician with a research background, this really sold me. This product is backed by years and years and years of independent third-party research, which means that the company provides the product to the research institution, and then they step back and they wait for the result of that study, either good or bad results. So the product is removed from the auspices of the potential bias of a company doing research on its own product. Is taken to a third-party institution to remove that inherent bias. And then when the study is done, it's submitted to peer-reviewed journals for publication. These journals have a peer review board. I sat on one for a few years. It's typically made by MDs, PhDs, and other scientists. And you basically scrutinize that study before you accept it for publication. You look at the methodology of the study. You look at the design of the study. And if it was done properly, you accept it and publish it in your journal. If not, you turf it back out to be redone. That's another layer of scrutiny the company puts the product through, which is a peer review screening and peer review process. And a great majority of these studies that are accepted for publication adhere to what's called gold standard research, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. That's top-tier research. That's the kind of research that I look for in my medical journals for legitimacy. And I don't know about you guys, but the nutritional supplement industry is like the wild, wild west, right? It's like every other week or every other month, there's a new nutritional supplement popping up somewhere on TV, on the radio, newspapers. Somebody tells you about something. And since I've been doing this for many, many years, people have gotten access to my Facebook account or text me or whatever. And probably once a month, I'll get some kind of message from somebody somewhere in the world wanting to know about a particular nutritional product that popped up and wanted my opinion about it. And for me, it's easy because you have the internet. You can navigate to the websites of these companies and look for their research tab. Guys, it is amazing to me. I've done this many, many years. It's amazing to me how many nutritional products that are out on the market today that have absolutely zero research. They got a whole boatload of testimonials, right? Grandma ran the 40 and 4.4. Well, she better be taking that. Show me the research on that one. I'll take that. But they don't, and because I can't mention competing products, because I have an eye that's trained for good research, it's amazing how many products out there that say they have research that have really faulty research. Or there are journals, none of these that you see, but there are journals that you can pay to get your study published. You can buy your way in to get a publication. That is not publishable research. And that's the fundamental difference between the research done on this product and all the other ones that are on the market today, because I'll tell you right now, there is no way in the world that you can buy your way into getting published in the top pediatric journal in this country. You cannot buy your way into getting published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. You cannot buy your way into getting published in the top sports medicine journal in this country. This company does top quality research at top quality institutions and deserves the right to have their research accepted for publication based on study, methodology, design, and results. Plain and simple. So I got to update this for the new year. This company now has 24 years of research, now 38 published studies with many more in the pipeline. It's been studied in 8 countries and 4 continents around the world at institutions like Yale and Vanderbilt, University of Graz, MD Anderson Cancer Center, Nemours Children's Clinic in Jacksonville. The list goes on and on. I have to tell you that this is also what got me with this product and this company, is because I have a research background. I know these institutions. Folks, these are high-end institutions with high-end research facilities doing quality work, and they're doing it on a nutraceutical product that's unheard of in the industry. Totally unheard of. And so this is the big umbrella under which all of the research falls, just very, very broad. Multiple studies have shown that Juice Plus will reduce oxidative stress, which we talked about, will reduce systemic inflammation, which we're going to talk about when I get to these stories here in a minute. Supports a healthy immune system, is protective of DNA. The research shows that it supports cardiovascular wellness and supports healthy skin and gums. The reason why I put up that big broad list to you is the fact that, you know what, there isn't a single drugstore or pharmacy that you could walk into and purchase something, nor is there a prescription that I or any doctor anywhere in the world that could write for you that in totality would do every single one of those things that I just listed off to your body. Simply doesn't exist. If I could write a script for you, multiple refills, where the biggest side effect that you get from that is really good health. Okay, who wouldn't want that as a script? You can clap, yes. You guys are a little quiet. I mean, let's go. Thank you. So this is it. It's 30 different fruits, veggies, and berries in capsules. That's the rainbow I'm talking about. 30 every day. And that's the rainbow. And because it comes in a capsule and it comes in a bottle, you know what? It's not a vitamin supplement. I hope you get that. Okay, you do get most of your vitamins and minerals, like I've already said, but you're getting them from the plant source. Right, the form in which our bodies are meant to recognize and utilize, but like I've already said a gazillion times, way beyond vitamins and minerals, is the tens of thousands of plant chemicals that you get from eating things like bilberry and black currant and elderberry. Who goes around eating that stuff every day? I don't even know where to buy half that stuff. But again, those amongst all the others contain all of those flavonoids and carotenoids and plant chemicals. They're so beneficial to human physiology that scientists are just now tapping into their potential. That's what you get. Now, because I cannot mention competing products in my lecture, I'll let you figure out who this is. So I came up with this slide, I think it was like 10 years ago or something, and just because I was curious, and somehow I got onto the internet, went viral, and it got translated in all these different languages, because I was really curious, and it's still applicable today, is what is in a popular children's vitamin supplement? And you know what, guys? It is not easy to find. Get on the internet, go to the website, look for the ingredients. When you get there, you got to go past Wilma and Barney and Dino and Bam Bam. I have not mentioned the name of that product yet. but when you find out this is what we're giving our kids, are you kidding me? All these things that have artificial sweeteners, artificial colors and dyes, which are now making linked to autistic spectrum disorder, right? Hydrogenated oils, all these synthetic laboratory-made vitamins and minerals, and a warning label. Okay? This company has chewables, not only for kids, but adults. And in the chewables are fruits and veggies, none of that other stuff. No artificial sweeteners, colors, dyes, no hydrogenated oils. And you know what? There's a warning label on the back of the chewables. It says, keep out of reach of children so they don't eat the whole bag in one sitting. Right? I mean, a child can sit down and eat an entire bag of those on the right and they're not going to die. They'll be on the pot for 2 weeks, though. Hear it all the time. Boy, Johnny's really healthy, we just can't get him out of the bathroom. But seriously, if your child breaks into and eats just a portion of that bottle on the left, well, you got a big problem on your hand. You got to call poison control. Because if they do eat a fraction of that bottle, they can die. And as an ER doctor, I took care of these kids. You can see them all the way across the ER. They're getting dragged in to the pediatric room. You walk in there, you got to put a big old tube into their stomach, pump a bunch of black charcoal to bind up those chemicals so they don't get absorbed, because if they do, they can die. Okay? And that is the difference between chemicals on the left and food on the right. What makes more sense? What would you rather have your families have, right? You got it. Food on the right. So basically, that's yabba dabba don't versus yabba dabba do. And like I've said, you guys have heard me say this. If you don't know who that is, which finished the program, and what it is that a child anywhere from the age of 4 up to and through a full-time college student can get Juice Plus for free for up to 4 years. You just fill out an occasional questionnaire. And the results that are coming back in the kids that have finished the program is amazing. You know, kids that have finished the program have far fewer days where they're not getting sick. Therefore, they're not missing school because they're well. They're not seeing their pediatrician as much. In fact, I have heard people tell me that pediatric offices call their house saying, hey, we haven't seen you guys in over a year. Are you okay? True. Yeah, we're well. We're healthy. And the other thing that's really neat about this program that really was unintended, but they found, is that the kids who entered this program who are addicted to the sugary pops, the sugary sweet stuff, they enter the program that way, but they exit the program not craving sugary stuff anymore. In fact, they exit the program craving fruits and veggies. Isn't that cool? Yes. So their bodies, their little bodies are being reprogrammed at an early start. What a great way to start a kid's life, right? So if you're not familiar with this program, please get with a person who invited you, because there's a tremendous program. The company's really put a lot of money in this to get our kids healthy. And then I want to mention a couple more products. I do not have a Tower Garden picture, but I know we've got stuff out there that looks 10 times better than a slide that I could ever put up, so check it out afterwards. But this is the complete shake mix, and this is a completely plant-based protein shake mix. The primary plant protein is non-GMO, non-genetically modified, water-washed, low-processed soy. And you can see on the slide, it's got lots of good fiber. It's gluten-free, low-fat, non-dairy, no coloring, no preservatives, it's low glycemic, and it's 100% vegan. Now, when I mention the word soy, lots of people's antennas go up, right? You know, my doctor says I cannot have, my naturopath says it's like the powder of the devil or something like that. True story. There's a fundamental difference between non-GMO, water-washed soy, and all the other soy that's on the market today, but understanding that a lot of this is based on old research, okay? This study, hot off the press. This is a study, and the biggest concern really with soy comes in women who have family history of breast cancer or who have had breast cancer. That's the big focus of this. This study was just published. This is the largest study to date where they looked at over 6,200 women who had either had in situ or stage 1 breast cancer. And they followed and looked at their food diaries, very well controlled. And they harvested these women from the Breast Cancer Family Registry, and other researchers were helping as well from institutions like Tufts and Columbia and Stanford Cancer Center. Huge study. After they looked at thousands of pages of data on this, you can see what their conclusion is. We now have evidence that soy foods not only prevent breast cancer, but also benefit women who have breast cancer. Therefore, we can recommend women to consume soy foods because of soy's many health benefits. Wow. You know, seriously, what was I taught in medical school and residency? You know, this is stay away. Well, a lot of those studies, you have to understand, a lot of the soy studies years ago were done on mice, rabbits, rats. I mean, those aren't human-based studies. There's never any well-designed human clinical trial that ever showed this. And finally, guess what? The researchers have caught up. Okay, big deal. And if it's ever a big deal, if it was ever a big problem, then why in the world would MD Anderson Cancer Center, right, one of the leading cancer research institutions in the entire world, if they ever had a problem with soy in the complete shake mix, then why in the world would they use it in a study of their ovarian cancer patients? That study is already done, already published. They were so impressed with the health outcomes of the women who were supplementing with the capsules in the complete compared to the other arm that they're going to be doing a follow-up study. Okay? But the whole point is that plant estrogens, phytoestrogens, do not bind to the estrogen receptor the same way that human estrogen does. And people get all worked up about it. My wife is my beautiful, intelligent wife goes, yeah, but there's so many other things that have phytoestrogens in it. And that's true. Look at this. Apples and carrots. Flax seeds. How many of you make a smoothie? Right? Mint. Coffee has phytoestrogens. And oh my God, bourbon, whiskey, and beer? Say it isn't so, man. I mean, think about this. So you know what? It's practically ubiquitous. The problem is it's got a bad rap and shouldn't. Low processed water washed soy is absolutely and completely safe. So Juice Plus bridges the gap. It bridges the gap between the reality of what we eat on a daily basis and a more optimal amount of whole food-based nutrition that provides a rich pool of antioxidants and phytonutrients from which our bodies were designed and knows exactly what to do with to contribute to ideal health. But what I think is great is this, is that for about the price of a cup of coffee, you get up to almost 50 different kinds of plants coursing through your veins every day. What is your health worth to you? Okay, for about the price of a cup of coffee, you get up to 50 kinds of plants coursing through your veins, making you healthy at a cellular level, because that's where true health starts, is from the inside out. And before I launch on these stories, I just want to mention this product. This got an international rollout about 2 years ago. This is a completely plant-based omega. Now most of the omegas on the market today derive their polyunsaturated fatty acids, in particular the omega-3s, from fish or krill. But the fish or krill actually have to eat algae in order to make that conversion in their body. So the companies, they skip the fish, will go straight to the source. So they harvest a big chunk of their omegas and 3s from the algae, but they round out the rest of the omega spectrum, the 5, 6, 7, and 9, by obtaining the oils from cold-pressed seeds. And each of those omegas has a specific beneficial role in human physiology by decreasing inflammation, improving cognitive health, improving cardiovascular health, improving healthy skin and gums. Okay, so this is a tremendous product. I wish I had time to tell you a story. You'll hear my story here at the end as it ties into this a little bit. This is a very powerful anti-inflammatory supplement. It basically follows the same anti-inflammatory pathways that Advil and Aleve and Motrin do, but you don't get all the GI side effects and all the other stuff because it's food. So research is coming down on this, which is going to be really, really exciting. This guy was like one of my favorite actors. He's not alive anymore, but I love this guy, right? So let's pivot. And the reason I put this up is that if you look at really well-designed studies, really well-designed and research studies like this company has, if you try to read that research, it's like really boring. I mean, it's really boring. It's pi square this, statistical analysis that, bar graphs, you name it, it is boring. But when you can take that research and you can tie it into what happens bodies when they put whole food concentrates in, not only does it make the research come alive, but the research validates the reality of what happened to these people's bodies. And that's what I want to launch into with you guys. And before I do that, I want to make it very clear. This guy was obviously way ahead of his time, right? Let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. What you're going to hear in these stories is a food effect. Okay, Juice Plus is not a drug, is not going to cure cancer and do all those fancy things, but when you see what happens to people's bodies when they take care of them, and they feed the catalyst of whole food concentrates in there, it's amazing. You've got to remember, this body, for the most part, that we've been given is an amazing machine. It is amazing. When you put the right things in it, it's going to figure out what to do, and it's going to be a unique experience for every single one of us, depending on our own physiologic demands. Okay, so here's Shada. Shada is a pharmacist in the Tucson, Arizona area, and she for years suffered with debilitating foot pain, bilateral foot pain, to the point at which she would actually have to take cool packs or ice packs to work to stand on just to get through the day. And so I had a discussion with her and got access to her medical records. And this was her medical treatment program from 2012 to 2015. So during that period of time, she saw over 20 different healthcare providers. She had multiple differential diagnoses, from ligament tears to hormonal imbalance, Crohn's, Lyme's, you name it. Tens of thousands of dollars of diagnostic tests trying to figure out what was causing her pain, and then tens of thousands of dollars of prescription and non-prescription medications. Okay, that was her life, and this is what her closet used to look like. She sent me a picture. So her life was revolved around dealing with foot pain and having to take drugs, prescription, non-prescription, splints, herbs, you name it. And the mere suggestion to her treating physicians that concentrated fruits and veggies and capsules might harm her own body's ability to heal itself, well, it was met with that. And if you're a healthcare provider, I'm not knocking on you, because I'm one too. But nutrition education is a blip on the radar in medical school. We're just not taught the connection between eating healthy and diseases. But I knew better, we knew better, so we started Shada on Juice Plus, and it was interesting. She started the latter half of July 2015, but in the beginning of that month, before she started, she actually had a routine blood draw. And at that time, you can see the numbers. She was a diabetic, her A1C was 6.6, and her lipid profile was pretty ugly. Within 3 or 4 months of being on Juice Plus, she had another blood draw that was done, and you know what? Those numbers started to correct themselves. But more than anything else during this period of time, her doctors were slowly weaning her off her medication, and by October, all she was supplementing with was Juice Plus. Okay? Now, please do not get me wrong. I'm not here to tell you, throw down your crutches, you're healed, you can walk again. Okay? That is not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that her body was just being patched up by medicine, and the real answer to her was inside. The real answer to her got turned on by fruits and veggies and capsules. I don't know why I get emotional about that, but it's amazing as a doctor to see this happen. It's amazing. But you know what? Her story would be a mere testimonial if it wasn't backed by the science. And I actually have 2 more studies. I keep forgetting to put them in here. 2 more studies to back it up. Multiple studies have shown that Juice Plus will reduce inflammation, because that's what she had. By reducing markers of inflammation, things like monocyte chemotactic protein is reduced, a reduction in macrophage inflammatory protein, a reduction in RANTS, which is this huge acronym for inflammatory marker I can't even pronounce, and then a reduction in the big guys, tumor necrosis factor alpha and C-reactive protein. So these are hardcore laboratory values, inflammatory markers that are effectively decreased in people who took Juice Plus compared to the placebo group. So what happened to Shada wasn't in her head. What happened to Shada wasn't a placebo effect. What happened to Shada wasn't just a fluke. It was clearly backed by science. What happened to her, the science said will happen to her, right? So this ends a little bit closer home. This is my oldest stepson, Grant. He's a little guy in the yellow circle. And Grant was really sick with reactive airway disease or asthma. To the point at which he was always on nebulizers, steroids, antibiotics, in and out of ERs. And my wife Heidi was desperately looking for something natural that might arm his own body's ability to heal itself. So they were introduced to Juice Plus. She immediately put him on it, and within 8 weeks, he no longer needed steroids, no longer needed nebulizers, wasn't having to go to the ER, and just needed an occasional antibiotic for an ear infection or something. You clap. Go right ahead. You guys are still so quiet. And again, I saw these kids all the time in the ER. These kids that come in and that have horrible asthma or allergies and those things. Their immune systems are just like this. They're all over the place. And all you're providing to your system are nutrients to balance your system. It doesn't rev up your system. Juice Plus doesn't tear down your system. It allows your body to figure out and regulate itself, and that's what was going. But again, Grant's story would be a testimony if it wasn't backed by the science. Multiple studies have shown that Juice Plus will improve the immune system compared to placebo by increasing things like gamma delta T cells, which are your fighter cells, increasing natural killer cytotoxicity, increasing interleukin-2, and decreasing tumor necrosis factor alpha. So again, these are hardcore laboratory values that are optimized in people who took Juice Plus compared to placebo. So what happened to Grant was real. What happened to Grant was backed by the science. So Grant went on to swim at Arizona State, a Division I school, and just got his degree in physical therapy. And where's my buddy? Where's my twisting words around here? And he's now practicing actually in the Atlanta area, and of course that makes every mama really happy. And so before I finish and tell you my story, I need to put this, I stuck this slide in here because this really ties in my talk perfectly. I don't have stories to tell about this, but this is the latest, greatest study on Juice Plus, just recently published out of Australia, gold standard study, of course. And what they found in this study compared to placebo, that Juice Plus effectively reduced lipogenesis, which is cholesterol production, and showed a reduction in inflammatory markers. But what they did in this particular study that hasn't been done before, to my knowledge, anywhere in the world, is that they actually looked at a snippet of DNA in these participants. And they looked at the epigenome, the switches on the outside. And what they found in the Juice Plus group compared to the placebo group is that the Juice Plus group had a favorable modulation of over 1,632 of those genes compared to placebo that had to do with cholesterol production, that had to do with inflammation. So think about this. Instead of having to take your Crestor for your hypercholesterolemia, how about turning off the genomic switch? Instead of having to take gobs and gobs of Advil or Aleve for inflammation, how about turning off the switch at the genome that produces too much inflammation? Are we there yet? No. Am I making any promises? Absolutely not. But this is the future, nutrigenomics. And the reason why I get excited about this is this company has got their foot way in the future. While everybody else is playing checkers, this company's been playing chess. This is the future of medicine, you guys. It's so exciting for me to put up. And I wish I had a story to tell with this, but you can clap again, go ahead. Just relax, you know, I'm butting my coat a little bit, so. This is exciting, seriously. That's how far advanced this company is. I just love it, absolutely love it. Oh, I forgot to do this too. So this is really a nerd statement here. This research paper was 43 pages long, and I read all 43 pages, and I fell asleep like a million times. But what's interesting is that what I highlighted up there on the right side is that, and the researchers were not looking for this in this study, but some of those switches that were modulated had to do with cancer genes, oncogenes, tumor suppressor genes being turned on. Think about that. Remember I talked about how great-grandma had breast cancer and you're not destined to get it? This is living proof that you still have some element of control. You got to do the right thing, and you will. Okay, so my story. And my story actually starts with the research because I'm just kind of a nerd that way. And this particular study was so profound that it was accepted and published in the top sports medicine journal in this country, Medicine and Science, and Sports and Exercise. And I tell people this is like the can opener for my brain and understanding how important fruits and veggies and capsules is to exercise performance. And it was a study that was done on the Austrian Special Forces Cobra unit, which is their equivalent to our Navy SEALs. Now these are big, rough, rugged guys. And basically it was a 7-month study they did on these athletes, exercising them periodically during the 7-month window. There were 2 groups in the study. One group of athletes that got the dummy pill of the placebo, depicted in the red bars, and the other group of athletes that took Juice Plus, and those are depicted in the green bars. And the researchers in this study wanted to know what kind of protein damage or protein oxidation is occurring in these athletes' bodies as a function of them exercising during the 7-month window. And without going into great detail, what they found out from the beginning of the study on the left, at baseline, to the final exercise session on the right, was there was a significant accumulation of these oxidized or damaged proteins circulating around in these athletes' bodies that were not taking Juice Plus, they were taking the dummy pill. That's compared to the athletes that were taking Juice Plus. And you can see they didn't have any accumulation of those oxidized proteins. So what in the world does all that science mean for you and me? Well, just within the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, multiple studies have shown, or are now making the link between this accumulation of these oxidized proteins in athletes' bodies to overtraining and overreaching syndromes. So you see an athlete, this could be a little Johnny going off to soccer, all the way up to the elite professional athlete that start off a new season healthy. But as that season progresses and the training starts to get ramped up, they start to get more and more sore, more and more tired, more and more sick, more and more injured. Well, they're now making the link to this accumulation of these oxidized proteins, not only within a particular season, but carry over from one season to the next. And this can be a really hard message to get into to athletes, except for Zane Grothy. Is he here tonight? No, he's not here. You'll hear about him tomorrow. Some athletes really get it, you know? And it's a hard message to get into athletes because they don't think they need this stuff, right? They've had 2, 3, 4 good seasons. I don't need it. The question is, at what point are their bodies going to fall apart? Because the research shows it's going to happen. Why even go there in the first place when you can prevent it from happening in the first place? Okay, so my story. This is when I finished at the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii. And over there on the upper right, it took me 10 hours, 10 minutes, and 12 seconds. And I joke, I'll never forget those 12 seconds. Ever. Coming down that chute. And I just want to finish by telling you my story and why I'm passionate about what I do. Why it's very different than I was trained to do. You know, I was trained to look for and treat disease. I did that for many, many years. But now I've spent many, many years on the other side of that wall called prevention. And it's amazing to me that I look back in all my years as a clinician that so many of the diseases that I was treating and writing multiple prescriptions for were completely preventable by what we talked about tonight, lifestyle, if you start early. I actually had a pretty good race. I finished this race Went upstairs in the hotel, showered, came downstairs, ate dinner, and then sat at the finishing line watching people finish the races. The one you see televised every year on NBC. Big star-studded event. That wasn't to say that I wasn't sore or tired, because I was. That's a long, non-stop day, but I felt distinctly different in this race versus the year before when I did Ironman Florida. And I had an absolutely miserable race at Ironman Florida. I was basically flat, fatigued, and tired going to race day itself now, because I now realize why. It's because I had accumulated all those oxidized proteins in my body from all the voluminous training I was doing. I'd overtrained. Subsequently, I had a miserable race for about 2 to 3 days after the race. I was so sore I could barely walk, and for probably a month after the race, I was sick all the time. One cough, one cold, one upper respiratory infection. Basically, my body was trashed. And I hate to admit it, but at that time, I was taking up to 8 vitamin, mineral, and herbal supplements. I was taking a concoction of pills and things that my training partners were taking. And if it was working for them, hey, I'll take that. Down the hatch, without doing a lick of research on it. And now I know, based on some of the studies I presented to you, they weren't good for me. And the only thing I did differently from that race to this race, a year later, was I was approached by this very attractive and intelligent woman who started engaging me in this conversation about oxidative stress that occurs when you exercise. And I didn't know what that was, because they don't teach doctors about oxidative stress. But she is very insistent that I take these fruits and veggies in capsules. Now, if you're a healthcare provider, or you know healthcare providers, we're trained to be very skeptical people. I was a very skeptical person. What could fruits and veggies in capsules do for me that I wasn't already getting in a healthy plant-based diet? It was practically vegan. Right? But I took them because I wanted to date her. She's right over there, somewhere in the lights. So now we're married, right? And the reason why I tell my story is because it really was difficult for me to kind of wrap my Ivy League doctor brain around something as simple as fruits and veggies and capsules. It wasn't complicated enough for me. I mean, I could turn around a bottle of Juice Plus and I could pronounce everything because it was food. How could fruit and veggies and capsules, be as powerful in the human body as some of the prescriptions I was writing? But I did take them because I wanted to date her, so whatever it took, I'll take them, whatever. And I was training for Ironman Hawaii at the time, and that's a full-time job. I mean, that's 4 or 5 hours a day training. I knew my body really well, and it wasn't right away, but about 2 to 3 months into taking Juice Plus, I did start to notice some subtle kind of anecdotal, testimonial things that were happening to my body that in all my years as a collegiate swimmer and triathlete, I'd never noticed before. In the sense I was having a lot less muscle and joint pain. I was recovering a lot quicker. Big time quicker than I ever had in the past. And the other thing I noticed is that I wasn't getting sick anymore. I just thought it was common for athletes that do a lot of training to get a couple of colds a year. Wasn't happening. So Juice Plus was filling in the gaps. It was filling in the rainbow of colors, right? The broad colors, the rainbow. That's what it was doing, that I wasn't already getting in a healthy plant-based diet. But because I was so skeptical, I just thought it was in my head. I thought it was a placebo effect. And that's when I decided to look at the research on Juice Plus. And at that time, those years ago, I believe there were like 15 to 18, now there's over 35. But 2 of those studies on Juice Plus were published in my sports medicine journal, the one I just put up for you. The one I get in my mailbox every month. Are you kidding me? They can study fruits and veggies in capsules with a placebo in humans, not rats, mice, or test tubes, using gold standard protocol, get those kinds of results and have them accepted and published in one of the top sports medicine journals in the world. Boom. That's all I needed. Light bulb went on. Part 2 of my story, some of you have seen this. I've been telling everybody else's stories for a couple of years now. I'm going to tell you mine. My wife and I have probably logged in, tens of thousands of miles on our bikes training. And we've had accidents, her more than me. But I've never really broken anything, horrible, anything bad's ever really happened. Well, last March, I took my bike out of our house, and there's a trail I usually go on out of the house. And I was coming home in my neighborhood, literally a block from my neighborhood, so I knew the area well. And I'm coming around the corner on my bike. I look up, and there's this big truck that had cut the corner, and I had nowhere to go but down. And so down I went, on my hip, slid up under the truck, thinking, God, it stopped, or I wouldn't be here. But boy, I had massive pain. And so I knew something bad happened. I worked my way out. Heidi came and got me, went to the hospital. They ended up CAT scanning my hip. And it wasn't the ball part, but it was the socket part called the acetabulum that it fits into. I don't have the CAT scan to show you. It's really hard to see on CAT scan, but this is basically what happened to my socket. So it shattered into about 30 different pieces. My orthopedic surgeon came in, and he's like, man, he goes, there was good news, bad news around all this stuff. He goes, wow, he goes, you've got like bony fragments everywhere, but your bones must be really healthy because they all stayed aligned together so we don't have to go in and pin anything